Hope everyone's doing okay. I'm feeling pretty good these days. I kicked off the Christmas party calendar this past weekend. Went to a party with my wife, and I was sitting there, and there was a DJ, and he started playing Two Live Crew's "Me So Horny." And then I jumped off the couch, and I started dancing, and I knew the words word by word. And my wife was there shocked. She's going, "Oh my God, how do you know this song?" And I go, "I grew up in Miami." If you're from Miami in the 80s and 90s, you had to know the entire Two Live Crew songbook. You had Uncle Luke, Luther Campbell, Two Live Crew starter kits. That's how you did it. Now, that song is very profane, awful lyrics, but didn't dwell on that too much, but it was good to hear it. Good jam, as they like to say. Welcome once again into the Soccer OG. Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. New show this week. Great guests from all walks of life in our little world. Also, like and subscribe to Soccer OG video here. Do it. And I will be starting a new series of videos here on my YouTube page about certain U.S. players that I feel are ready for a change of scenery. We'll start with Christian Pulisic. It's a very unique circumstance with him, and we're going to do the video after he plays Wednesday in the Champions League to see how that goes. It seems like he's ready. It seems like Chelsea are ready to perhaps pivot away. But where does he go? Does he go to a team at the bottom of the Serie A, as has been reported? Does he go to Liverpool? Does he play there? Can he go to Barcelona? There's a lot there. His injury record certainly is going to play a role here as well. But I will say this about Chelsea. He's not going to get better there. Chelsea are not really doing any of their attacking players a favor. Look at what's going on with Romelu Lukaku. So I don't see these attacking players really progressing in their game. And Christian Pulisic wants to be a number one, the king of New York, right? So we'll talk about that coming out midweek. We'll do that with Christian Pulisic. We'll do that with Weston McKennie. We'll do that with Serginho Dest. We'll do it with Zach Steffen and probably Ricardo Pepi. Those are going to be good videos. I'm looking forward to that. So, we're here to talk about the 26-man roster for the United States men's national team that will be part of a lengthy 4-week camp. They will be playing December the 18th against Bosnia and Herzegovina, likely a BC team from them. So you do have that game. It's going to be friendly. This is a roster of players mostly from Major League Soccer. You have a couple guys from USL, so great news for that league. Congratulations. And also congratulations to the Portland Timbers and New York City FC for making MLS Cup. The Major League Soccer, they will have its final weekend. And that's a big part of this camp because after this season, you don't come back till February, mid-February. And what do these MLS players do to stay sharp? Many of them are still in this camp, namely Ricardo Pepi, and you're going to lean into them, and maybe more than that. So a lot of MLS players here. You also have 4, I think, from the exterior. Let's take a look very quickly at the roster. But you do have Taylor Booth, who's with Bayern Munich 2. You have Brian Reynolds, who's with Roma, and you have Johnny Cardoso from Internacional. So this is a full lineup. Now, the notable absentees are Miles Robinson, Daryl Dike, and Sebastian Lletget. But Greg Berhalter addressed that, saying that these guys need it for rest or to recharge or whatever it is. So they haven't been ruled out by any means. All those guys, obviously, Miles Robinson's our best defender. Daryl Dike is starting to come around. But there you go. We have 11 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 7 forwards. The 3 goalkeepers, you have Matt Turner and the 2 kids in Slonina and Pulskamp, both 6'4". Slonina in particular has looked really impressive while starting a lot of games for the Chicago Fire this season. The defenders, a lot of fullbacks, as you'll see there. Jonathan Gomez and Kobe Henry from USL. What an incredible achievement from them, and we'll talk about those guys. Brian Reynolds as well. There's the midfielders. Forwards, highlighted by Ricardo Pepi, José Zardes, Jordan Morris, and Jesus Ferreira. Now, one thing I want to talk about this roster, and I take my hat off to, because I don't think all these managers would do this, but Greg Berhalter is about creating good energy, giving confidence to these guys. At the end of the day, only 23 or so will dress for these big qualifiers or go to the World Cup. But he said he wanted to look at everyone, and he's doing that. And what he's doing here, and there's some older players, Jackson Yueill and Christian Roldan, some younger players, Caden Clark, Brian Reynolds, who have struggled, not playing, confidence is low, but they were brought in here to get a good taste, to be part of a camp, to show that, hey, you still have a shot here. We know you're going through a bad patch, but you still have a shot here. Guys coming off injuries, Aaron Long, Jordan Mars. I don't know if they feature. Look, for me, Jordan Mars is a guy with 3 massive knee surgeries. I don't see how he could really be part of this team. But he does provide a unique skill set that we don't really have. So, here's a possibility. Now, Aaron Long is a guy who can play. He ruptured his Achilles, and we know coming back from that is very difficult, and maybe you don't always come back from it. But this is a guy who could start at central defense for the United States. He plays the style that Berhalter wants. He can use both feet. He can pass out of the back. He's very mobile. He's an all-round midfielder. But he's not ready to play. He's going to do some light training, but this is a process, and you give him some confidence. So hats off to Greg Berhalter, because I can assure you not all managers will do this. There's a lot of tough love in this sport, and sometimes they're very straight. You're not going to be on the squad. That's not it. But Greg Berhalter puts in the time to widen the net here with all the guys that could possibly play. That is to be applauded. Greg Berhalter, he did say this camp gives us the opportunity to see some new faces and allow domestic players to maintain the fitness levels. That's the main reason, as we touched on, about why this is going on. You have the World Cup qualifiers. They're not that far out. January 27th, United States versus El Salvador in Columbus. January 30th, Canada and the United States in Hamilton, Ontario. I'm hoping to take the soccer OG out there. I'm hoping, as we've been to many of these games. That's going to be an event. We know USA-Mexico is always the biggest rivalry because of the Mexican participation and how big they make it. But this could be a solid number 2 moving forward. I can't wait. February the 2nd, USA-Honduras in Minnesota. Yo, U.S. Soccer, can we get some games out west or out east? All the games have been in the Midwest and one in Texas and in Tennessee. Can we get one out west? We hooked you up in Denver and Las Vegas. And that actually takes me to this point before we go further about the United States putting a bow on a very successful 2021. They won a co-record 16 games. They could get a 17th win against B&H, Bosnia Herzegovina. They beat Mexico 3 times, and they took out 2 trophies. Now you look to build onto that, and after these 3 games, the U.S. could be right there for a World Cup spot. Again, Panama's hanging around, so it's going to make it a little more hard to pull away from that number 4 spot, which would be a playoff, but at least it gives you a second chance. The United States team now has to get ready for that, and keep in mind those MLS players. This is a very tricky situation, and the U.S. team is going to lean into a lot of MLS players, including our starting forward and a couple other guys, perhaps the goalkeeper. So you got to keep them engaged. This helps bridge the gap. There are 12 uncapped players, 7 in the senior camp for the first time. We can talk about the USL players, and Jonathan Gomez is really intriguing because Mexico also want him. He's left-footed. We got a lot of good left-footed players now, and certainly fullbacks on this squad. I don't think he'll start. Maybe he gets some minutes. You can't cap tie him, but you can show him what could be there on the table for him, as long as he knows he can play, and he'll get some minutes. But he just made a transfer to Real Sociedad B in the Segunda Division here in Spain. He's going to play there. I like him a lot. He defends well. He does go forward, had 8 assists in the USL, so we need good crossing coming in, and we need good left footers. We have that group at the top on the fullbacks, but I think a lot of these young players, Gomez, certainly Justin Che, George Bello, who I think will start, trying to push for more playing time. Bello's been rumored to be in the crosshairs of some Champions League teams that look to sign him. So although he hasn't really impressed that much in many games here in the U.S., he is drawing some eyeballs. As we look towards, by the way, I'm going to give you my starting 11. It's pretty easy to project, I think. You look at the guys who have experience and the guys that are trending towards getting minutes. And there are several here under that position right now here for the United States. You're looking to create some luxury players. You're looking at a nice luxury piece here and there. You have a very good foundation and core for the U.S. as is. But what about these guys that might be able to pop in there? And I'm going to give you a list of some guys that I think can benefit the most from this situation. Getting back to what we talked about, Greg Berhalter and doing solids for these players. Brian Reynolds, what a rough go he's had at Roma. We knew when Jose Mourinho was coming in that he probably wouldn't feature because Jose Mourinho, who's a stickler, doesn't play young players. Well, Brian Reynolds supposedly now looking for a winter move so he can get some more playing time, which would be great. But maybe he outlasts Mourinho at AS Roma. Mourinho, this whole thing, that you can predict what he's like. I don't play young players. This is how we do. We will counter and defend. He has not adapted his game, and the results are there for everyone to see in his last posts with Spurs and Manchester United and Roma. He has to move on to the next thing. I love Jose Mourinho. I want to see him on TV, but the coaching thing has gone downhill for him, and maybe a new coach gets Brian Reynolds some minutes there. So I just found that very interesting. Here are the guys I think will benefit the most from this 26-man roster. Cole Bassett, left-footed, very good. Platooned the position there for the Colorado Rapids, so he wasn't everyday player. Had that report where he was going to go to Benfica. It was squashed by the Rapids. It's going to come up again. I think he starts this game and he could really see his stock move forward. Not just from this game, but being with his squad and maybe being an option in that midfield. Justin Che probably gets close to starting here. I think George Bellows just in front of him. Or I'm sorry, no, I think he does start because he's a right back. Sorry, I got that. I think he does start this game because he's already had some experience with the U.S. team. He was on the bench in the friendly against Switzerland. He's been popping around here a bit. Justin Che is a guy who benefits a lot from a month with the national team, should get good minutes. Jesus Ferreira's form with FC Dallas saw him burst into the scene. He got minutes in the 2 World Cup qualifiers there in November. I think he starts as well. And don't be surprised if he breaks into that core because he's earned it. And he plays with Ricardo Pepi. There's something to having a good wavelength between two players. It'll be Pepe and Ferreira here. But these are the guys that are ready for at least another significant step in their national team careers. To a lesser degree, Jonathan Gomez, I think he comes off the bench here, but he's certainly, you need to show what this is all about. You don't want to, you've done so well with Pepe. You want to get certainly another of these dual nationals to join you here because Mexico obviously got some good ones on their side in recent months. And Johnny Cardoso, I don't see enough from Internacional, but he can play that deep-lying midfield role, which we need cover for Tyler Adams. He's young. Maybe he's the guy as well. But there it is. Those are the 4 guys I think that could certainly benefit the most from this players' camp, getting ready for January 27th against El Salvador. And that'll be here before you know it. Here's my projected starting 11. You go with the more experienced squad, but young players will get in here. So much youth, 3 or 4 teenagers, a lot more that are right there, 20 and under. Many of which, we talked about Caden Clark, and he hadn't played well for the Red Bulls, and he gets a solid here from Greg Berhalter. Did play well in that under-20 tournament. So there are games. You got to piece it together. But the starting 11, I'll have Matt Turner. I'm going to go with George Bello, Walker Zimmerman, now 2-time MLS Defender of the Year. Henry Kessler will be, it's pretty easy when you look at the center backs. There's not many of them, and one of them, Aaron Long, is not going to play. He's going to do light running. I'll go with Justin Che ahead of Brian Reynolds at right back. So there's your defense, the 3-man midfield, Bassett, Kellen Acosta, Christian Roldan. Expect to see some guys pop in there certainly in that group. Maybe one of the forwards to drop back as well. Up front, Ricardo Pepi, Jesus Ferreira, and I'm going to go with Cade Cowell. I think he's had a few more minutes. Jassy Zardes would come in for Pepi at some point. I don't think they're going to play the 2 forwards. Pretty decent starting 11. You got a little bit of everything, and you got some pace out wide, so I think Cowell gets the nod ahead of Caden Clark as well. I would like to see Slonina get some minutes there off the bench if that is feasible at some point. But the U.S. locked on it. I'm so glad this game is here. It gives us a lot to talk about. I'm planning on going out to see it, but I have tickets to see the reunion of Dokken later that night at the Whiskey on Sunset Boulevard. I can't miss that, I can't. So, but I will probably do both that day. It's going to be a very busy weekend. And I have some big news coming there, certainly with the podcast. I'll be in Vegas this weekend, so look out for that. Rate, like, subscribe. The Soccer OG, we're here for you.